Health officials detect West Nile virus and mosquitoes in Barnstable. To learn more, Channel 18's Sarah Colvin chats with entomologist Gabrielle Sokolsky on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Wednesday, August 31st, 2016. I'm Sarah Mannel.
Gabrielle, first I wanted to maybe set the stage a little bit. Tell me a little bit about the Cape Cod Mosquito Control Project. What is it that you guys do here on Cape Cod?
Sure. The Cape Cod Mosquito Control Project is made up of our 15-member towns in Barnstable County, and we have crews in each of those areas going out on a daily basis, doing surveillance for mosquitoes and controlling the mosquito populations. Keep those mosquito populations down to keep people's comfort level higher and try to prevent the transmission of diseases.
Absolutely. And we have heard reports, Gabrielle, that several mosquitoes have tested positive for West Nile. Tell me a little bit about where and when those discoveries were made.
We've had 7 pools of mosquitoes. Pools of mosquitoes are samples of mosquitoes collected at the same place at the same time, not like a pool of water. But I've had 7 pools of mosquitoes test positive for West Nile virus in Falmouth so far. From areas around Woods Hole and the center of Falmouth downtown. And Barnstable has had 1 positive for West Nile virus. That came back just last week, mosquitoes we collected on the 23rd of August. And Yarmouth, unfortunately, has had 1 positive pool of mosquitoes for eastern equine encephalitis. Those were also collected on the 23rd.
Sure. So what can you tell me, Gabrielle, about we'll start with West Nile virus. Tell me a little bit about this disease. I understand it's mostly found in birds and, of course, it's carried by mosquitoes.
West Nile virus is a disease that cycles in the bird population. So the birds bring in the virus, mosquitoes pick up that virus from an infected bird and then carry it to another bird, amplifying the disease that way. The type of mosquitoes that are biting the birds, amplifying this disease, are a species of mosquito that bites both birds and mammals, like us. So what will happen is a mosquito of that species will bite an infected bird, pick up the disease, and then carry it to a person.
Absolutely. And then eastern equine encephalitis, similar kind of a thing there?
Similar in that it's the birds that are carrying the disease. A mosquito will pick it up from an infected bird. The species of mosquitoes that are involved in that amplification cycle are a little different. The species that are involved with eastern encephalitis, that mosquito species really only bites birds. So every once in a while, another species of mosquito will bite an infected bird and carry it into the human population. That happens a lot less frequently, thank goodness. With West Nile virus, about 80% of the people who get West Nile virus are exposed to it through a mosquito bite don't have any symptoms. Maybe 20% of them will have flu-like symptoms, and then there's that 1% that will have severe symptoms like encephalitis or meningitis. Whereas with eastern equine encephalitis, anybody who gets that will have severe symptoms, and about 40% of the people actually infected with the disease. It's about 40% mortality.
So certainly important to stay vigilant. So you mentioned different species of mosquitoes, and I'm thinking, I mean, in terms of even testing and trying to identify these mosquitoes are tiny little bugs. So how do you tell the difference? Is it more behavior, or are there actually like characteristic traits that you can use to tell the mosquitoes apart?
Oh no, they all look different to me under the microscope. Each one is special in their own way.
Like little snowflakes, right?
Exactly.
Little dangerous snowflakes flying around out there. What is the testing process like? Lead me through how mosquitoes are collected and tested.
So I've a number of different trapping programs that I run through the summer, and we start trapping mosquitoes with these different types of traps starting in the middle of June, and then we submit them on a weekly basis to the state labs. So we pick up those mosquitoes from those traps, we put out the traps, we pick up the traps. Mosquitoes come back to my lab, they go in the freezer to help them fall asleep, and then I keep them cold. I sort them by species on a cold plate, and then I put them with ice and ship them overnight to the state labs for testing.
And then how long does it take before the state lab turns around those tests?
When they get it, 24 hours.
So what happens when you get a positive test back? What does that trigger? What action do you take when you see a West Nile virus or Eastern equine encephalitis pop up in your samples?
Well, we have crews, like I said, all over Cape Cod, and when we get a positive, we send crews to that area to target the areas where the mosquitoes would be developing. And so they'll go out looking for mosquitoes in the water. Depending on which type of mosquito is carrying the disease, they'll look for that type of habitat. And then once they find that mosquito, they'll either apply bacteria to kill that mosquito larva, or they will educate people on dumping out their containers.
Sure, because standing water is really where the mosquitoes breed. Now, we have had a relatively dry summer, I think we're in drought conditions right now. Has that affected the development of mosquitoes around here on Cape Cod?
It did. So what you're not seeing are species of mosquitoes that develop in places like swamps, because the swamps are all dry. What we're finding are those mosquitoes that we've been getting all of our positives in, those mosquitoes that lay their eggs in man-made containers, like the road drains or like the tarp over a boat that's holding water. Those things don't tend to evaporate as quickly. And I think anybody who's out early in the morning walking their dog knows people are using their sprinklers all over the place, and that water just runs right down the road, right into those road drains. And without a rain event to sort of clean out those road drains, that water's just sitting and creating habitat for mosquitoes to develop in.
So for how long does water have to be standing? I mean, I'm thinking there's not a whole lot you can do about the water in the drains, but in terms of like empty flower pots or bird baths or kiddie pools or that tarp over the boat that collects water, how long does the water have to be standing there before the mosquitoes decide, hey, this is a good place for me to hang out and lay some eggs?
Well, my crews are going around taking care of the road drains. So what people can do is go around their yard. It only takes a week for a mosquito to lay her egg, have the larva hatch, and have them develop into adults.
So very short period of time. So certainly always a good idea, especially if you're one of those who runs their sprinklers first thing in the morning, to go around and empty all those containers once it's done.
Exactly.
Gabrielle, what else can people do to protect themselves against a mosquito bite? Obviously, nobody likes to be bit by a mosquito in the first place, but even worse if they're carrying a disease that might cause some pretty serious harm to you.
What I always recommend is that other than going around your yard and emptying out containers, if people are outside and they're being bitten by mosquitoes, they should use a repellent to make sure that those mosquitoes don't continue to bite them. Sometimes you're going to be outside, and there are going to be some mosquitoes out there as well. When you're choosing a repellent, look at the label. Follow the directions on the label. Make sure that that label has an EPA registration number on it. That means that that product has been tested to be effective and safe to use on your skin.
Do things like citronella candles and bug zappers help at all?
Unfortunately not. With citronella candles or any of those sorts of things, what you have the wind blowing around what should be like a repellent smell outside, so no. The bug zappers don't end up killing a lot of mosquitoes. The types of insects that are attracted to the bug zappers are actually things like moths and other things that are out there flying. The mosquitoes aren't that attracted to them.
So
no.
Okay, so good to know. So you definitely want to have that bug spray and long sleeves and pants, right? If you're going to be outside in that peak time and dusk time and dawn too, right?
Yes.
So we're correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking we're kind of in the peak time of year for mosquito population. How does that change throughout the year, and is it something that we have to worry about as the weather gets cooler?
So actually, we're a little past peak now for population sizes, but we're actually at peak for when disease would be out in the mosquitoes. It takes a while for the disease to build up over the season, so when you start to see disease is usually later in August and in through September. So when people are starting to think these cooler nights are keeping the mosquitoes away, it's also that time when the disease is most prevalent in the mosquitoes.
We'll be sure to tune in to our hour-long news program, Barnstable This Morning, weekdays at 8 a.m. On tomorrow's show, we will learn more about how to avoid tick bites. We'll have our weekly transportation segment, plus we'll have all the news and information you need. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mannel.